Hey everybody, welcome into the Creed of Crypto live stream. How you doing? I'm one half of your host. I'm Broke Boi Crypto. I have here with me, as always, a little bit of a sneezy, but he's still here, Crypto Ewok. So welcome in, everybody. We have a lot of people already joining us here in the chat. We got DJ Moonboy, as always, Patrick's Astro and stuff. We got Bit Finesse here as well. People pouring into the chat. Smash the like on your way in. We appreciate all you guys being here to help us support Real DeFi, PulseChain, HEX, eHEX, pHEX. We're going to talk about the hexes tonight and a whole lot more. As you can see on the thumbnail, we're talking about are people choosing PulseChain or are they choosing HEX right now? And we'll get into a little bit more specifically of what we really do mean by that. But obviously, it's been a very eventful last couple of days with a tweet from Richard Hart on Sunday that people are certainly reacting to. That's one fact we can all agree on anyway, that people are reacting to it regarding HEX on Ethereum and regular HEX on PulseChain. So we'll talk about that and a whole lot more. Bitcoin continues to scream up. It's over 70K, new all-time highs over the last couple of days. A lot of great stuff going on. So, yeah, hit us up. We got a poll question there for you as well. We want to get a sentiment check on this. Not a sentiment, but kind of just how you guys go about checking your portfolio. And that's just how often do you check your portfolio? Quite simply, once a week, once a day, 2 to 4 times a day, or 5, the true degens, 5+ times a day. We're interested to get so far 5 times a day is, oh no, it's second actually. Once a day is leading the pack right now. So we'll continue to monitor that. And I'm sure we'll get thoughts from you guys in the chat, and we'll hit you up on that and share how often we check ours as well. But Ewok, I know you're a little under the weather. How you feeling tonight about how you feeling, and then how you feeling about the markets and everything as well?
Oh, I'm feeling all right. A little stuffy, a little cloudy. So if I can't remember what I was about to say, bear with me tonight. But we'll get through it. And markets are looking good. Bitcoin still looking really strong. Haven't seen anything negative about it. We'll take that positive compared to some of the other negatives we have and kind of balance things out a little bit. But yeah, as Bitfinesse said, growing pains. It's part of it. And, I've seen a lot of things that will probably, hopefully, be forgotten about in 3 or 6 months. And we'll be on to a new drama, a new issue, or whatever it might be. So, roll with the punches. And, if you believe in things, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed with any of the code. It all still works very well. It's just a little bit of sentiment right now. And yeah, we'll get through it, man.
Yeah, for sure. And we definitely have a lot of thoughts on the conversation over the hexes and everything like that we're going to get into here momentarily. First off, let's just start off real quick with BTC and ETH, just looking at kind of where the rest of the market is. BTC, as I mentioned a moment ago, is, man, almost pushing up into 72K again, which is just crazy. It was already there the other day. But hovering right around new all-time highs. I was talking to somebody that's not really all that into crypto the other day about this and saying, all I'll tell you is, like, for BTC to be at an all-time high in the first half of March, not a lot of people expected it, and they're liars if they say that they were. We've got ETH sitting right there at about 4K still. It is starting to get up there a little bit higher, which is something that will specifically intrigue our ecosystem, I think, and a lot of altcoins a little bit more. But yeah, what do you make of it, Ewok? I mean, just relentless bullishness for BTC. Every time it seems like we're going to have a pullback, like earlier today. We saw one earlier today. I think it went down to 68K or so, but we're still hanging out there. So yeah, what do you make of this? It just will not let up right now.
Yeah, it's just not. And we said it behind the scenes there. I said everything I see just looks strong. I don't see any weaknesses. We get a run up, we get one pullback, and it gets eaten alive. And then you get another couple run ups, one pullback, eaten alive. So everything's just looking super strong with both. Obviously these two are tied together very, very closely. So when one moves, the other one usually kind of follows suit. But yeah, it's just everything. The RSI, the moving averages, it's all just so bullish right now that we keep asking ourselves, when's the bottom going to fall out? Usually there is a pullback before the halving, and the closer we get, and staying this strong just really makes me wonder if this cycle is going to be different. But you know, as I said, it doesn't appear that way right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of people adapting what their previous notions were about BTC this cycle, like Bob Lucas, who Hex hater, loves to hate on Hex for the engagement, but good with the 4-year cycles, and he has been talking more and more about this looking like we may get a blow off top. He's also been talking about an increased likelihood of a left translated cycle. I don't know how much those two things can coexist necessarily. So I think a blow off top we would probably be thinking more like in 2025, but but he was intimating like a 200K BTC today. So, and somebody else we're very aware of was tweeting about that also pretty recently. So man, yeah, it's just insane that we keep seeing this. It's cool that we're getting, it freaks me out a little bit because it's almost like things are getting a little bit too bullish too quickly. And I'm calling a duck a duck. I mean, our stuff hasn't pumped anywhere near like we thought that it would with with Bitcoin, with Ethereum, where they're at right now. That said, I think that time is definitely going to come. Obviously, I think it's going to be just a little bit differently correlated purposefully. And we'll see. What we're really looking for a lot of altcoins is for Ethereum to really catch up to BTC on a pullback that will really drag up the altcoins. And that I think is going to happen here. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think, history says anything. We've always been kind of decorrelated and we run after everything else kind of happens. So, will history repeat itself? It's kind of looking like it because we're just not doing a whole lot of anything besides bouncing around sideways. But, again, it's just a matter of sentiment. When does the money shift out of the Bitcoin and Ethereum in order to get over to our ecosystem? It's kind of hard to say.
Yeah, it is hard to say, but it's going to come, I believe. Obviously, we all do. That's why we're here. So we'll keep on fighting a good fight and see where we're at with the market here. So looking at our ecosystem, if you want to turn the page over to that Ewok, it's so funny, like when these stories develop, and obviously everybody's talking about, eHEX, is eHEX dead? What did he mean by this? Things happen and in crypto at breakneck speed. And it's like you completely forget something that just went on right before that, because I have here in my notes talking about the prices because we started making these last week, that we had a big pump in this ecosystem going into the weekend. I forgot about that already, literally. And that PulseX primarily pumped by a big wallet that had some affiliation with the Sacrifice wallets. And it actually went up to SAC rate. So we saw PulseX on a wick anyway. I mean, it was pumping hardcore, I believe, last Thursday night, because I remember DMing with you, maybe Friday. But PulseX just absolutely killed it. Got a hard reject right there at SAC rate, which is the 3 zeros and a 1, and came back down, which was pretty interesting. I'll just shout out all the prices real quick. I forgot to do that first. But yeah, we have Pulse right now at 3 zeros, 1 7. We're actually on a little wee bit of a pump right now as we get on stream, which is not usual for newcomers. So we have that going on. PulseX right now sits at about 15% below SAC rate. So still very healthy, running harder than like everything every single time we get a pump. Incentive token, Jesus Christ, almost $9 right now, which is just nuts. And a story we're going to get to here in a moment, but the combined hexes, which nobody wants to quote anymore, are at like 2.3 cents. That's right. It's lower than it's been in quite some time. So money has left HEX entirely, not just eHEX to go to HEX. Money has left HEX to go into the other portions of this ecosystem right now. So, but we do have the HEX at 1.8 cents right now, and eHEX has rallied off the low anyway, which I figured would happen by now. I do not think it's going to go lower than it has this bear market, but we'll get to that in a moment. But it's at about just under half a penny, basically. So, anyway, so that's where we are with everything. But yeah, which chart did you have up? I'm sorry for backtracking there.
I did have the PulseX pulled up because
okay,
you were talking about that pump that was on the 8th, whatever day that was, 4 days ago.
Yeah.
I think it was Friday, wasn't it?
Yeah, Thursday or Friday, I knew. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Friday.
But it was insane. It was like every time I checked. Now, if you wanted to ask me how many times I checked my portfolio that day, it was pretty odd. But I was mainly looking at PulseX just flying up there and just
Yeah.
relentlessly every time. I remember you and me were DMing and just refreshing and like, Jesus, look at this thing. And it gets rejected at the SAC rate. So, couple questions here. What do you make of the chart right now? Looks pretty goddamn good to me. But
Yeah.
also, what do you make of this wallet that had an association with one of the sacrifice wallets? Just injecting into PulseX right now instead of anything else. Yeah, what do you make of all that?
Well, I think it's going to kind of take turns injecting just to maybe get some ratios where that entity thinks maybe they should be. I don't know that there's a favorite. I wouldn't say that because we've seen it happen with incentive too, right? I think the last round was with incentive. So all the money got injected there and it just pulls everything else with it. So, just because the money's coming into one thing doesn't mean the other ones aren't going to rise. Everything's so tied together by liquidity bonding that it really doesn't matter. I think this recent one though to PulseX was possibly to expedite some weak hands, knowing that there would probably be a lot of selling at that sacrifice level of 0.0001. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened, and we haven't seen anything since. So, that entity, while it wants the price to be up there, it doesn't want to be exit liquidity either, right? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to spend millions of dollars just so people can get out. So, you have to do that in a very strategic yet subtle way. I mean, obviously it wasn't very subtle. I mean,
it was pretty hard. It was pretty noticeable.
Right.
It was a hard injection. It was a real hard injection. Yeah.
It was. And very quick too. I mean, it didn't last long, but I think the goal of that was to possibly get out some hands that needed to be rinsed and kind of see what happens after that. Does the community kind of rally behind it and start buying? It didn't look like it. It just kind of looked like it fizzled. So, there's a lot to be said for that as well. People just are kind of waiting. and I hope that doesn't happen. I hope they're not just waiting for one entity to buy. We have to have some onboarding as well, or it's just going to be short-lived. Every pump, there's going to be a massive dump. It just doesn't, it's not sustainable that way. So,
well, it's not going to happen that way. And I mean, it's one of those chicken and the egg things that we've talked about before, where it's like, yeah, people want an entity to prove itself to get into the market, but also, green candles bring people to the market. So yeah, it's kind of one of those chicken and the egg things. But luckily, like you just said, I mean, we didn't really see a massive sell-off after this at all yet. I mean, PulseX has still held up pretty damn strongly. It was on Saturday that it dipped below that 8 number there anyway for just a tad. But I mean, it's been up over here again for a while. So yeah, you got it, DJ Moon Boy. But yeah, I mean, it's just looking really healthy right now. And we saw that ratio of Pulse to PulseX get the whole way down to 2-1, or 1-2, however you would want to say it. Which is just nuts. I mean, it's, this is something that's oscillated between 2 and
3.
I was going to say 4, but that was more so like back at launch time.
Early days.
Yeah. We've basically been between like 2.4 to 3 or so for quite a while. So, and we, you can monitor that. We monitored it, I think, even more doing the yield farming on the 2 tokens because you want to kind of know that. But yeah, this is the most that PulseX has run up on a Pulse in quite some time. So I think that's probably due for I think that's about the top probably. I can't imagine people have talked about like PulseX hitting parity with it. I can't foresee that. I think this is probably more the top of its range in terms of ratios, but it is cool to see PulseX pumping so hard. And God, I mean, when things really start to rip, I mean, we've all talked about it. PulseX is probably going to be the thing, maybe Inc too, that just runs like hell in this bull market. So
could very well. Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see that ratio getting too far out of whack. You know, you have to remember there were 3 times the amount of sacrificers that got into PulseX, and I believe it was at least 2.5 to 3 times the amount of capital raised as well. So, I mean, that says a lot for how they should play out and how they should kind of even at. So
Yeah. I hear you. I don't know that I think we're going to end up pulling up a couple of other charts as we talk about this other stuff. So let's not worry about any other charts for the moment, because I think we're probably going to bring some more up based on what we're talking about here. But if you guys are here and enjoying the show so far, do us a favor, hit the like. We appreciate it. Support Real DeFi. Help us support the channel. Let's do a quick check-in on this poll question. How often right now are you checking your crypto portfolio, whether that be on GoPulse or whatever apparatus you use for that? We've got the laggard is maybe I should have made one less option on here, but 2 to 4 times a day is last, actually, at 4%. Once a week, almost dead last at 12%. I didn't think that would be a popular one. Once a day, 38%, and 5+ times a day, 46%, the overwhelming majority. Let's give our answers now, Ewok. I mean, where this is an interesting one from you, because you've been around a couple of cycles and are a little bit more dead inside about all this. So yeah, where are you on this chart?
I've got no feelings left.
Right.
I don't need the dopamine hit. Although that will change. Right now, I don't see the need. Right, I don't see anything crazy happening. I check it probably once or twice a day, and twice is probably high. I'll look at the portfolio sometimes around lunchtime or whatever, just to kind of get a feel. But other than that, I can kind of gauge it on what I'm seeing on Twitter or X. How many people are texting me about, did you see this or did you see that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If when that happens, I do check usually. But otherwise, I'm not like refreshing it just to see what's going on. So how about you?
I definitely am in the 5 times a day category or more. And it's not, I would qualify this because you hear that and it's like, oh man, you don't have a healthy relationship with it. It's, driven by anxiety or whatever. That's not really why or when I'm checking it. I'm not usually in an anxious place or anything. I'll give you maybe 10% of it. It could be anxiety or something like that. But for me, a lot of it's like just informing myself also, because I also know pretty much for a fact that I have more different tokens than you do, in terms of like the different stuff that I hold, just the variety.
Right.
And I'm kind of informing
Bitcoins.
my exactly. I'm kind of informing myself on like, okay, I want to see like portfolio percentages, which I have said this so many times, nobody can get an answer for me. You try to tell me that Hex Scout does it, they don't. I just want a pie chart portfolio, and a lot of these sites do really well with all their other stuff, but a pie chart portfolio that has a percentage of each holding in the pie chart, not my balance in the pie chart, but just a percentage, so I can track the percentages better. So I just like that. We don't really have one of them yet, but I get it. I'm a DJ shitcoiner right now, so it's
So I
understandable.
have to ask you, if you had a percentage, what would you do with it? Like, would you hopefully you wouldn't like feel the need to rebalance all the time, would you?
No. I just, you know what? I don't need the answer to you. That's what I have to say.
It's just a
I
question,
just,
buddy.
it
Don't
just
get
makes me
so
feel good.
defensive.
It just makes me feel good inside. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy. I don't need it that bad. No, it's all just mainly informing myself. I just like to know where I'm at with everything. No, I'm not going to like be making like, oh, okay, it's off by 2%. I got to do a rotation. I would never do that. I just like to inform myself on where I am. Like, say, I have like the shitcoin section of my portfolio. I would like to just be able to kind of easily calculate to myself what percentage is my shitcoin portion or
I
something like
got you.
that. That's all. I mean, I
That's
can
fair
do that
enough
now.
answer.
Just a
Yeah,
couple other steps. That's all. So
fair enough. Fair enough. I
yeah.
wanted to make sure you wouldn't like, because when things go up, I get it. When you have one thing that kind of gets away, if you have a shit coin that happens to take off,
Mhm.
sometimes taking a little off the top isn't a bad idea, right? You're never going
Right.
to lose money by taking profits.
Right.
Now, if you take profits too early, you could lose more than what you could have had, but you're not going to lose money, right? So sometimes it is kind of. I just wondered what your thought was about trying to rebalance some of those to keep it to
Yeah.
a set
Well,
amount.
certainly when shit coins pump, I mean, you want to have a plan in place of like, if this is not something I have conviction in long term, when am I going to take it out and put it back into Pulse or PulseX or something that I really care about? I'll say Hex too, sorry. But when are you going to do that? You want to have that plan. I just like to see a pie chart with percentages. That's
I
just
hear
me
you.
though. But yeah, I probably check it five. I know I check it more than 5 times a day, depending on the day. If it's a weekend
Yeah,
and I'm out doing stuff like family stuff, I'm not,
sure.
I'm not looking at it. But
You're not looking for that
um,
dopamine.
no, I'm not shooting up that day. So, but yeah, it's just one of those things. So hopefully you guys that are answering 5 times a day, it's not necessarily out of anxiety. I mean, hey, it's fun, and I think most people that are here in this chat are have a somewhat healthy relationship with the market. So, yeah, we got an RH new tweet about Hex and eHEX. I'm going to get to in a moment because we're turning the page to that topic right now. Nothing groundbreaking, but I'm going to get to it here in a moment. So let's start tackling this subject. So Sunday is when it all came down, when the Lord spoketh unto us, and he said this. So we'll just go and talk about, and this is something I do want to do, is actually read what the tweet says. Okay, because I think that's what a lot of people aren't doing, or or at least not like interpreting it very well. It's not like it's almost like you read a headline in today's society and like you get the whole story right from that headline, and that's we've got like paragraphs here, so why not actually read them? So did you want me to send that to you to get it on the screen? I can do that if you want. Just so people actually have a visual aid of the tweet. I just sent it to you if you want to pull it up. Are you there? You're muted. Oh, you're getting it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I was getting
Okay.
it. Sorry.
All right. So we'll take a look at this RH tweet from Sunday. So this is when he said what he said about Hex. So Hex is much better than eHEX, the Hex on Ethereum. Why? Gas fees. Now, right there, he said Hex is much better than eHEX. Okay. That's what he said. He didn't say eHEX is dead. Abandon eHEX. Why are you holding eHEX? Emergency end stake, you idiot. Didn't say any of that stuff. He says, why? Gas fees, liquidity, slippage, common sense. Yeah. I think we all already knew all of these things. Why would you pay $1,000 to end a stake instead of pennies? Why would you want crappier order execution, buying into a thinner order book with more slippage, getting less for your money? And the same applies if you sold. How are you saving people from gas fees if they have to end stake on 2 chains instead of 1? Every start stake, end stake, or swap on the Ethereum chain robs users of money because of the abusively expensive gas fees. And the real bull run hasn't even started. He's definitely right about that. And we're all seeing that a lot right now. He says, imagine how high the gas fees on ETH might get. That money would have went to Hex network participants instead of ETH validators. What if all new buyers chose Hex instead of eHEX? What if all new buyers choose Hex instead of splitting their energy? I've told you all this before, but likely some of you don't listen so well, so I'm telling you again, Hex is the Hex on PulseChain. The only part that sucks about saying this is that, well, I told you that you should be very careful about selling one chain for the other, because if you choose wrong, the market will punish you. Probably some people chose wrong. PulseChain was invented to make the world a better place, and it is. So that last thing that he said, I think, is probably the most valuable one, and that's something I'll just say right now, because a lot of like investors in this ecosystem are going after a lot of like Hexagon OGs, or really people of all kind. If you talk about PulseChain or Hex at all, they're going after you right now. You and I steadfastly, since PulseChain has launched, anytime somebody that was like, hey, like I'm thinking about getting into this ecosystem, what do I do? And it's like, well, all we can do is share what we will do. And what we do is own everything. And we have said that from the beginning. I initially DCA'd. I wanted to balance everything out. Obviously, when PulseChain launched, you don't end up having as much Pulse or PulseX as you may like as compared to the Hex that you've been holding for a while that
Right.
you got copied. So for me, it was just buying everything equally, including the 2 hexes split down the middle, because it's exactly what Richard said. I did not want to be caught off guard anywhere. That's why for you and me, both Ewok, neither one of us are like shitting our pants because of this tweet or any news or anything like that. But anyway, I've talked enough. So yeah, what do you make of this tweet and looking at it with nuance instead of what I think most people are doing? And what do you make of what Richard said here?
Well, I you know I think he may have missed this whole saga. Like, how many months ago was it? When it
Oh yeah.
happened, I kind of wish he would have come out and said it then. I'm not a fan of the waiting, like wait and let them figure it out kind of thing. Obviously, PulseChain is cheaper. ETH is expensive. I read somewhere the other day that just the HEX contract alone has spent upwards of $53 million in fees and stakes, just interacting with the contract itself. Someone else had speculated that there was probably another 100 million in swaps, which we can't really tell. You can't, I don't know that you could single them out. You may be able to, it would take a lot of work. But somebody speculated that, about another 100 million in swaps and sends and different things like that. So you're looking at about $150 million that could have been funneled into PulseChain. So
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I understand. The problem for me is for new people, Ethereum is still, while it's more expensive, it's easier to get to. And I, you want to confuse the hell out of somebody and try and get them on PulseChain. Somebody that's never done any of this stuff before. I think Ethereum is definitely like an introduction type thing. PulseChain's a little bit more advanced, and I don't know that once they're over there, it's fine. It's very similar. You don't have to change your MetaMask settings unless you're bridging over. But yeah, I mean, it's just tough. And I think that's kind of where a lot of people started. So I get what he's saying. I completely get it. But none of his instructions, you're right, said sell your coins. You should do everything. Um, although you can tell by the market's reaction that they did.
Yeah.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
and now it's like, what do I do? Do I join the crowd? Should I jump on? Should I at least bridge my eHEX over to PulseChain so that it's over there? Um, Not a bad idea. At least you get it over there. It's not going to hurt anything having eHEX if it's liquid on PulseChain. So sure, bridge it over. At least if you want to send it and play around with some things, it's cheaper. There's also a trading pair that you can trade eHEX for pHEX and see how things play out. That way you're over there and you're not worried about the Ethereum fees. That's an option. So yeah, I mean, there were no real, I don't say clear instructions to do anything. But I think it's more like, okay, guys, new money comes in, need it to focus over here. It's cheaper. But here's the thing, code still hasn't changed. Hex code hasn't changed.
Mm-hmm.
The T-shares are still king. I don't care what anybody says. You and I were talking about this a little earlier about, man, staking is it's not something I'm sure I want to do. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, I still think the T shares are what makes Hex what Hex is. Without staking, I think Hex is just another token. There's really, other than the OA, which every other coin has, there's nothing different about it. Staking is what Richard has even said he believes is Nobel Prize worthy. Is it? Well, I don't know. I mean, show me something that's gotten people to lock stuff up for that long, and you can't really do it. So I still say T shares are king. Um, will the eHEX side eventually even out? Well, I mean, even out. I don't see parity anymore. Definitely don't see that happening. We know.
And I don't mean to interrupt you, but let me interrupt you real quick.
Go ahead.
I don't think we did we think that anyway before this. I mean, like, I think the
No,
writing was kind of on the wall that people were like starting to accept, like, if there's $1.80 or something combined hex, it may be like $1.20 hex and the core 60 cent eHEX or something. You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to blow my
Sorry.
nose.
Oh, go ahead.
But no, I don't know. Even a 2-to-1 ratio, I didn't think it would get that far out of whack. I really didn't. And had he not said anything, I don't know that it would have. I think it would have stayed fairly close. You're still going to have the people that say, well, we said this was better all along. This is what you should have been doing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's like me telling you what you should do with your money. And
Right.
we frown upon that, right? I don't like to tell anybody what to do with their money. If they want to sell, they can sell. So, what difference is it between me saying, well, you shouldn't sell, all the OGs are selling, or what's the difference of saying, well, they're all over there, they're not doing it the way they should be doing it? Well, who's to say? Obviously, like I said, Richard's saying which is the better network, which one's cheaper, which one's more efficient. Why was PulseChain invented in the first place? Well, because ETH got out of control. And none of us want to pay these fees. I have a stake that still hasn't ended from a week and a half ago because I'm waiting for gas. I refuse to pay too much to unstake it right now. So, yeah, it sucks, and it sucks for everybody. But here we are once again.
Yeah. I pretty much agree with all your points. I mean, yeah. I'm still interested in both, and I mean, I understand that some people are like totally scared off of eHEX now, but I mean, again, nowhere in there did he didn't even say, he literally said HEX is better than eHEX.
Yeah,
couldn't agree more. Yes, I do agree with you. I've agreed with that the entire time. That doesn't mean there is not a case for eHEX existing and not having a chart that looks like it's totally just died. You know what
right.
I mean? Which, people obviously have to buy for that not to happen, but or hold or lock up tokens and stuff like that. But that is a big thing. Like, regardless, if you think about like outsiders in crypto that are looking at it. Now, I understand. I mean, like, if you can't be dumb in crypto and ignore stuff, and yeah, you should have already been aware of PulseChain, and that's where the opportunity we really feel is in this bull cycle. But there's a lot of people who know Richard Hart, associate him with HEX, know that there was a HEX token on Ethereum, and that's what they know. Now, yes, they need to do their due diligence because they're missing an even better opportunity right now, staring them in the face for this bull cycle. But it's not helpful if the guy's original creation appears to have died. Yeah, and he's not. I'm not saying that is on. I'm not blaming Richard or saying that that's what he wants in any way. I'm not saying that. But PHEX maxi people are like people that have been talking about like, heck, you need to embrace HEX, you need to forget about the old one and not worry about eHEX. I mean, like, you do not want that to look like a dead project.
Bad
People are already
optics.
calling it a meme now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's bad optics.
Yeah. But I'm interested in buying it right now, and I'm not telling anybody else to. And I don't mean buying it with like buying eHEX. I'm saying I'm not, and I don't mean with like huge capital or anything like that. But I'm definitely interested in throwing some bullets into it because I think that it's already hit its lows. I'd be willing to be wrong, but it pretty much came back and found support and just barely touched the low that it had previously in this bear market. I'm not saying I'm staking it necessarily or anything like that, but I am interested in it as a play in this cycle still. I mean, I just don't think that, FUD around it is going to get any worse than it is right now. And I think people are having a multi-day irrational response, and this is going to be forgotten about. And you can't tell me that when this ecosystem starts to pump that it's not going to too. I know it's going to.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
It will. And, we still have the Bank X thing. I think if the Bank X wall wasn't there, this would be a whole completely different conversation. I really do.
Go on.
I just think that if it wasn't there, we wouldn't be worried so much about this big bag that's dumping on our heads. I think it could move a lot easier with other things. I think even just a small bit, I mean, because we already know there's liquidity pairs out there. I don't think they've pulled them from PHUX. I don't think they've taken those down. They're still there as far as I know. I should have probably checked before I said that, but there was a 50-50 eHEX PHEX pair over on that side. So,
yeah,
it's just, Yeah, I think that's the besides Richard's support, that's the gray cloud over our heads right now is that BankX wall.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that was the other point. Like initially, and it's funny because again, we're so far removed from this originally happening now, but initially, I think I said this to you immediately. I was thinking like, how much of this has to do with BankX? Like, is this a psyop? About what's going on with BankX, which for anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about there, BankX is just an entity that has, I never say what their plan is correctly, but some kind of silver algorithmic stablecoin that I don't even know anything about. But essentially, they got an egregious amount of money from the Hex God Whale, apparently, in their
Right.
sacrifice phase that they're holding. And luckily, bullishly, they did show their hand, and they just recently put up a sell wall, basically between, I think it was like 1.2 up to almost 3 cents of just eHEX. And at first, with this statement by Richard, I was like, how much of this is like to psych out Bank X? And it's like, hey, good luck selling now, because now they're caught with their pants down. I can't imagine that they're happy about this,
Yep.
So yeah, what do you make of that? I'm walking that back now. I'm not here saying that like, oh yeah, that's all this was. He didn't mean it for any other reason. That was just something I thought of first off and could just be a nice maybe side effect of this. I don't know.
Well, I kind of hope so too. I hope they dump. Hang on.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Having a little sneezing fit here. So
sorry.
I kind of hoped it was the same. I was hoping it would make them want to just dump, get rid of it, be done, be gone, and we could move on. I think what would have happened was it would have recovered pretty quickly, had that been the original intention. But sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze again.
It's all good.
But it didn't. They didn't. It's still there. We'll see how patient they are. It's not over. Obviously,
Right.
This is still days old. If it doesn't move anywhere close to it, I could still see them exiting and just taking what they can get at this point and saying, wash our hands of it, be done, and walk away. So that I still hope it happens. I kind of do.
Yeah. Oh, I think so too. Yeah, we definitely want them to get out. I just can't imagine, it just is very unwise to capitulate with everybody else who just did emergency end staking and all these things just based off this tweet, which is really the most ridiculous thing of all, I think. Ewok, I just went ahead and DM'd you Richard's follow-up tweet from Sunday. I wanted to take a quick look at that as well. And there's actually a response that got a lot of attention from Toby Wan underneath it that I think kind of represents, the I don't want to say dissenting opinion, but the any opinion that could be dissenting basically against what Richard had tweeted here. What I think Toby kind of summed it up. So we'll take a look at that too. It's going to be the first comment to the tweet that I just sent you. So he followed it up that day with, guys, I'm trying to make the world a better place. I'm trying to get the Ethereum fees down. Moving load from ETH to PulseChain achieves that. Onboards not getting murdered by slippage in and out is also nice. On PulseChain, you can get 1.5% slippage for 100K eHEX buy. And in the best case, there's an example of using an aggregator to get more hex for your dollars on ETH. It uses $272 of gas to get you 12% slippage, which is better than not using one, which gets you 23% slippage. You get beat up the other direction as well if you sold. Besides you owning some, why would you suggest somebody buy eHEX over hex? So again, he's saying one's better than the other. He's saying, why would you suggest somebody buy eHEX over hex? I can't necessarily argue too much with that, but I want to, if you scroll down, I want you to see Toby's response. It's the first comment under here because I can't see, I'm trying to see your screen. Yeah, right there. You got it. Yeah. So this is interesting because I think Toby kind of represented the other side of this. So he said, I hear you and I get it, but you're playing a dangerous game. Obviously, for all the reasons you stated, pHEX is the better option. And again, I think everybody agrees with that. But for those less concerned about gas, larger players that have more confidence in ETH as they've never heard of PulseChain till I've told them personally, something that we referenced a minute ago. They're simply more comfortable on Ethereum for better or worse. And these same people generally are more inclined to buy and hold liquid eHEX as it's the original hex that we literally made a movie about, and it's on the #2 blockchain in the world. Eventually, I'm able to get most to learn and participate on PulseChain, but the first experience is often eHEX. But with the chart being so easily wrecked by a tweet, and I mean, I get what he's saying, wrecked by a tweet. It wasn't really the tweet. It was all the idiots who sold. And the subsequent flood of people running from the one you, according to them, have disowned. It just takes away from a stepping stone that did eventually often lead to PulseChain. Here's an example of a small onboard that I gifted $100 each of all 5 of your tokens to last week. There's a picture down there. Basically, eHEX is dead and everything else looks good. Many other bigger onboards wanted to try eHEX first and see. Those that got in recently are wrecked now and not interested in learning more. I mean, I don't know about all that. If somebody just bought all of them and one of the 5 bags fell, it's like, well, that's why we bought all 5. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what I would say. And that's why, credit to Toby, if he's onboarding people and telling them to buy all of them, that's the right thing to do. That's exactly what I would have done.
Yep.
So I have a couple points I want to get to there. Like, who does this really hurt the most, I guess, we'll get to in a moment. But what do you make of that follow-up tweet from Richard, though, and Toby's response? I'm sure you have some feelings because, you're very similar to Toby. I mean, like, you were kind of around at that time, too, and are a HEX OG. So what do you make of that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I get it. And it's very similar to what I said earlier. People that are comfortable with Ethereum chain, that's what they're comfortable with. You kind of got to... It's like the pool floaties, before they can take them off, it's like you got to get them with what they're comfortable with. And until it's time to take the training wheels off, make them kind of learn it. Obviously, we want the same thing. Anybody that I've onboarded or told anything, I'm like, you got to get some of that too. Get some Pulse, get some PulseX, dip a little incentive. But you want a little bit of each just to kind of protect yourself, because you don't know which one's going to do better. I mean, obviously, I think we're all going to do pretty good, but yeah, it's just hard to get people to play in a playground that they're not familiar with. And the people that have money don't care about fees. The problem is the little guys. Obviously, if somebody's only going to put $100, $200 in, you want to direct them to PulseChain, because you would get nothing with $200 at this point. On the Ethereum chain, you're going to lose everything in fees, and you're not going to have anything anyway. So it just there's no point in it. So that's kind of where I stand. I mean, I agree with Toby's point. Obviously, HEX is still HEX, though. The movie was made. Was it about Richard? Was it about HEX? Was it about what was it? What was it really about? It was a documentary about the whole kind of ecosystem. And the end did talk about PulseChain. So, I don't know. I get both sides. Again, Richard never said sell your stuff. So,
right.
The whales are going to be whales. And that's kind of why I still see eHEX hanging out okay. People still want yield. T-shares are still T-shares. Those guys don't really care about gas fees. There are other options too. There's perpetuals that you don't have to pay an end stake fee if you get into those. So there are solutions out there. And yes, we know PulseChain is better. We're not arguing that at all. Just kind of stating the obvious of why people do what they do and why they're reacting the way they are.
Yes, I agree. And I wanted to ask you this, and this is maybe like a weighty question. Maybe it's dramatic. I don't want to sound like a concern troll or something like this, but I want to ask you, do you think that Richard, I have a hard time like blaming Richard for this. I blame the people who can't read and just react. That's really who I blame. So maybe this is a dumb question to begin with, but I wrote it down. So what the hell? Has RH inadvertently really hurt the HEX long-term narrative here? Because again, I said this at the top of the show, people can pretend whatever they want to about what's happened since that tweet. it has not been an eHEX sell-off into HEX. Okay, that has not happened here. Maybe here and there. Either way, not necessarily a great trade right now. But it's been a sell-off of HEX, period. Both HEXs into Pulse and PulseX. That's what we've seen. I mean, Pulse and PulseX have come up since then, especially PulseX. The bigger thing is that HEX has gone down. As we sit here right now, it's actually gone down even more a little bit just during our show here at about 2.2 cents. So what do you make of that? I mean, I didn't pay attention to everybody to what I said. I said, is he inadvertently hurt HEX long term, the long term narrative here by saying that? I didn't say that it's dead or anything. So yeah.
Like I said, 3 months, people are going to forget. That's kind of how it works. We'll be on to the latest and greatest drama or whatever that is. And, we got to remember that Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, it's toxic. And people can spend way too much time in there, and they should probably really get outside and feel the grass between their toes and breathe a little bit of fresh air. Yeah, I don't think he's hurt long term. I think what could happen, though, people are going to see kind of what we dealt with the very first cycle with a lot of the FUD, right? Because the optics, because of the chart that looks wrecked beyond belief right now. That's when all the Bitcoiners and all the Eric Walls and all those guys start to talk their shit and say, I told you, see, it was, we knew it was a scam. It's finally crashing down. And meanwhile, we've got everything over here, kind of thing. So people will experience that a little bit. Thanks a lot, Randy. We appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it, pal.
And, I think they're going to witness that a little bit. They're going to see what we kind of dealt with the first cycle because that chart is definitely going to be wrecked for a little bit. Is what it is. So, but no, long term, no, it's going to be fine. People are going to forget this happened. The stakers will keep staking. The liquid people will still be liquid. Right. I don't think that is going to change a whole lot. For me, I am a fan of staking. Not everybody is, but I prefer to delay gratification a little bit. I do keep a little bit liquid, but maybe the timing for eHEX shouldn't be to have stakes end at the top of the cycle. Maybe you want it to end when it's a bear market, so that you're paying not so bad fees, right?
That's what I thought you were saying. Yeah.
So that you can have it liquid whenever it happens to go back up. So time it so that you're in a bear market maybe the next time, instead of timing it at the top when the fees are just god awful. So maybe a new strategy for some people.
I think what is really evident here, like just you saying that, is there is no right answer. I mean, and that is something that's true in all modes of investing. There is no this is superior to this because X. You can point at a couple of charts, one looks better than the other, whatever, okay. But for that individual to be like, my dad's not gonna stake HEX. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. It's not gonna happen. But he may have a 60-40 S&P 500 portfolio or something like that, and that's how he'll be able to sleep. And no amount of arm twisting, convincing, just casual talk, whatever, may be able to change that. And that goes for different modes of crypto as well. There's people out there, I was watching Corey and Dane the other day. They're pretty much full bore, hey, PulseX, yeah, we hold HEX, but we don't care about staking or anything. They'll go as far as to say we never should have listened to anybody that told us to do 5 stakes and blah blah blah. Some people will say that. Ewok, you're of a totally different type. There are people that are like you, Johnny Chaos, Randy in the chat, HEX OGs that I've heard Randy talk about get 100 T-shares or whatever. There are people that want to do that in addition to their other investments and stuff. Everybody just has a different view on how they want to handle it, and who am I? Who are you? Who's anybody really to tell them right or wrong? And that's what we're seeing here. I'm seeing these battles. I don't even want to call it that, but these back and forths on Twitter, which I'm not saying are not needed. I think it's inspiring. It's good that we have this kind of polarization. I think it shows that there is an ecosystem here.
Yeah.
But I saw like Matty Allen, a favorite of many, and Sami going back and forth, and I don't know. I don't know how much vitriol there was. I mean, Maddie called him a liar about something, and this is public. I'm just saying, but and Sami showed receipts of something, and I don't know. I only saw a couple different exchanges, but what I'm realizing is like these guys are not the same. Like Sami is not like day one Hexagon. I worship the ground Richard Hart walks on. Everything he preaches is what I will do. Hail Richard Hart and 15-year stakes. Like he's not that. He's an out. That's actually why I like him. He's an outside observer that kind of independently comes to this ecosystem a little bit. Maddie, is somebody who is there since the beginning and does arguably more for the ecosystem and the notoriety, the publication of it than anybody there is. I think you could count him. Maybe there's 3 people like him, Crypto Coffee, and I don't know. I don't want to insult anybody, but I mean, with what Maddie does for outreach is insane. Sami doesn't do that at all. He just makes his own videos. So people are just different, and it doesn't. You don't have to like fit the square peg into the round hole or whatever.
Sure.
With everybody else, like do whatever you want to do.
Well, maybe that's a good thing, man. Maybe that's what we need. Maybe we need. I mean, as long as it's still a united front, people can do what they want. And as much as I hate to say it, we always say, I don't want to tell you what to do with your money. Well, there you go. This is a prime example of let people be who they are. And it could upset Richard, but again, it's not Richard's money either. So I don't know. I don't know what there is no right answer really. It is what is right for you is right for you, and it's not right for the next guy. And that's what we have to remember, as we make our way through this journey.
I agree. Yeah. So there's always going to be like people fighting and hate out there or whatever. And again, I mean, while it's not like it does kind of stress me out, like it's weird, like you start to feel yourself kind of getting into it as you're reading through it and stuff. Just remember that, again, I think that polarization is kind of healthy for an ecosystem, but you don't have to necessarily participate in it. But we're all largely united here. Like you zoom out, I mean, we're all united on this front and, wishing for good things. And I think are going to get really good things here in this bull market. So did you have any last thoughts on that one? I wanted to bring up what Alex McWhirter actually said about all this, but go ahead.
Well, let's just answer DGen Moonboy's question here real quick. Want a pHEX run drag up eHEX? It will a little bit, but at this point, a lot of the liquidity between the two has been pulled. Like there isn't a lot on PulseX, I don't think. The only one that I know of that has it is the FUX protocol and maybe 9mm. I'm not sure exactly. So it's not going to drag it. Like they're not tied together. They're not bonded. I mean, we're down to what, a 4-to-1 ratio now, I believe. Maybe even a little bit more than that. So I don't think it will. Plus, there are different cell walls, like the BankX cell wall, which is going to kind of hinder that from going up. It's got to eat through that first. So until they're out, if they were completely out, and I think it would probably pull it a little bit more. But for right now, it's not going to move it a whole lot step in step.
Yeah, good call. Let's take a look at this tweet from Alex McWhirter and his thoughts on this in a moment. But I just want to say, hey, we've got a big chat tonight. We really appreciate all you guys. Randy Hilarski, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate what you do for the ecosystem, and all you guys are very active tonight. So do us a favor, smash the like to support Real DeFi, help support the channel. We really appreciate all you guys and all your thoughts here. So Alex McWhirter, creator of Hedron, Icosa, maybe the 2 best things that have been built on top of HEX, arguably anyway, and somebody who has been hard at work on some kind of a system, ironically enough, to combine Icosa and Hedron and do Icosa Hedron, where you'd essentially turn in, if you wish, all of your copies of both tokens on either chain, Ethereum and PulseChain, to whatever this new contract is that he's working on. That will then give you the new United token. Apparently has also been working on, and this would change a hell of a lot of things. But you mentioned bridging eHEX to PulseChain earlier, Ewok, but Alex has also been working on mechanisms to be able to stake eHEX on PulseChain, which, I mean, that helps a lot of things right there. So, I'm really interested in his thoughts, as he is somebody that's big in this ecosystem. Guys like him, Dipcatcher. I had a couple other people in mind I'm forgetting right now, but people who have built stuff on both chains, with the idea that we wanted to grow on both the chains. So Alex said, eHEX is a foot in the door. It's the thing that is most known with the easiest access to the most people. Are we to be an island? Instead of questioning A is worse than B, why buy A? Should we not be saying, hey, you have some A. Did you know you can bring it over in your sandbox and gain benefits from X, Y, and Z? Why not give A some niche utility in the new sandbox, entice the transition? eHEX and HEX are not the same thing, never will be. It's okay for that to be the case. One may perform better than the other. I think we all know which one has the better properties. But to lose the former is to lose a foot in the door. It's the most PulseChain accessible thing, not on PulseChain. Perhaps if we saw major Pulse liquidity across the bridge, that would be different, but we don't. It doesn't make any sense to do that, and I don't think anyone will majorly support doing it. Regardless of price, eHEX is still that thing. It can suck comparatively in many ways, and that can create different use strategies for it. Again, it's not the same thing, but losing it creates a much more remote island than having it. So I continue to find its existence as a valid thing. It should be enticed by the majority, bridged away from its native chain. In that case, it's no different than an ink of sorts. Anyone can add utility to it if they wish. The only real argument for its demise is perhaps there are some people with large bags we don't want having large bags, Bank X type people. So as devs, we simply must make whatever utility we form around it primarily benefit the superior blockchain. My 2 cents anyways. So TLDR, eHEX should exist. eHEX mining should be replaced or superseded by better utility on PulseChain than Ethereum. Yeah, so what do you think? I mean, like, this is a guy who's been building to try to combine these two things, or at least make it easier to access, like his tokens that he's built on top of HEX anyway. I like his sentiment here. I totally agree with him. It's a foot in the door. It's the closest thing to PulseChain on the other side of the island. I agree with him 100%. And again, I know he's not like arguing with Richard here. I don't think, obviously.
No.
But Richard didn't say kill eHEX. He said that HEX is better than eHEX. So
Sure.
I think what Alex is doing is reacting to the people that heard something that wasn't said by anyone here. But yeah, what do you make of what Alex?
Well, and that's what we're saying too, right? I mean, we're saying the same thing. We agree that it's better, but we don't want to kill it. I don't think Richard does either. I don't think he wants to kill it either. Obviously, we know it's better on PulseChain. Alex has something in the works where he's probably put a lot of time and energy into it. He doesn't want to see it go away. Kind of defeats the purpose of that too, because Hedron and Icosa all tie into the E side of things, where it's going to create this symbiotic type thing where one kind of equals the other in Ethereum and PulseChain, which probably won't happen now with HEX. So I don't know if maybe that whole thing has kind of ruined it, because it's going to be hard to make Hedron on Ethereum equal Hedron on PulseChain, because of the backing of the T-shares and things like that. That's why Hedron is kind of derivative play on HEX. Will it throw that whole thing out of whack? And as a developer and somebody that's put a lot of time and effort into it, I could totally see why that tweet probably put him back, right? Probably was like, holy shit, now what, right? Because I wanted these, or thought maybe we could have something to make one side equal the other, this and that. So I can see why he's all out of sorts with this. And, he brings up a lot of good points. A lot of the points that we brought up earlier. I don't, for some reason, I don't remember seeing that particular tweet I read some of the other ones where he originally had stated, well, maybe now I shouldn't do this, and then I think he thought about it a little bit and then came out with this one, but I didn't read it the whole way through for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, it's a lot of the points that we made earlier.
Yeah. Sorry, Richard just tweeting more about this stuff in the background. You guys will have to check it out whenever you're done. He's basically at this point just kind of mocking people for being critical of him stating that Hex on PulseChain is better than eHEX. I think what he is maybe ignoring purposely is that most people, I don't know, people are acting like eHEX is dead. I mean, they're not acting like they're not interpreting what he said correctly, but whatever. I'm trying to live react to a tweet right now that's kind of hard to do on air. So anyway, you guys can check that out. It's in all caps. But I want to answer what Philly just said right here. If you held or bought eHEX last summer into the fall, how can you sell now? Makes no sense after buying eHEX at 0.3 of a penny or less. We are still up.
Huh.
Totally agree. I totally agree. And something that and you know, it's even encouraging too that we already saw it kind of tap off that support, even though Hex is now falling even further, as Richard continues to tweet here tonight. Well, I was going to say this earlier. Who do you think? And when I say this, all I'm referring to is the 74% dip in a day, just based off of the tweet the other day. But who do you think is really like quote unquote hurt the most by this fall of eHEX temporarily here? I don't know. What do you have? Oh, is that the GIF that Richard put? I thought you had some creepy ass. I don't know what you had on the screen there.
That's Richard's tweet.
Okay, I was like, who the fuck is this girl? But who was really? Yeah, I don't know.
She freaking you out a little bit?
Yeah, it just looked like some kind of spooky. I don't know what was going on. Like some
like
AI
a fembot. Looked like a fembot from Austin Powers.
Yeah. But you know, people, so like, and I know this isn't what you're saying, Philly, but like for people that were like primarily only DCing into eHEX all this time, I don't know who that is. I can't imagine it's very many people. There are people out there like tweeting as if like that's what they did. And again, you know, my kids' college funds and all this. Look, the amount of money that you have in any pocket of crypto, if you want to deem it your kids' college funds for dramatic effect, as opposed to like, you know, money for beer on the weekends or whatever, that's fine. But what do you think about people that are like heavily DCing eHEX all this time? Because I don't know anybody that was doing that, like, you know, as if it was like their biggest bag they were DCing to.
I do.
Okay, well, I was gonna say who. I guess you're not going to divulge that, but I don't understand that, just like I don't understand anybody that I will say this, I understand it way more, but anybody that just bought Pulse, you know, because you missed opportunities, I think, with PulseX being beaten and dead on the floor. You know what I mean? So I don't understand anybody buying one thing in an ecosystem where things are liquidity bonded, but I agree with you, Philly. Yeah. I mean, why would you be selling it right now, especially when we just saw support off that level?
Sure.
You know,
Liberty brings up a good point here too. So you want to read that one?
Yeah, just joined. It would be foolish to abandon eHEX as ETH gets an ETF, becomes a household name, is in pensions, 401ks. Hundreds of millions of people start exploring the ETH ecosystem, especially if fees drop. All great points. And, you know, Richard Hart is a guy who is obviously extremely bullish on Ethereum, on the ETH ETF right now. So, yes, I totally agree. And that's the thing. And I know you're not saying this, Liberty or Death, but like, Richard didn't say to abandon eHEX. That's what I know I keep coming back to this point, but people read what they wanted to read and are reacting to. I don't know if it's like a thing just to create drama on Twitter or whatever, because we see this kind of thing in politics a lot too, but they read what they wanted to read and are taking it and running with it and just creating a narrative that wasn't real. I understand the chart looks like shit in the last couple of days or whatever. But again, like Ewok has said, 3 months down the road, you know, I don't think people will be thinking of this very much.
No,
you know,
I don't. And wall to wall, we're not walking anything back. We're not. Again, we're not telling you everything you just said is true. eHEX has a higher APY, easier on ramp. I already said that. I said it earlier. I said the code is still the code. I haven't changed my mind on that. The fees suck, but that other than that, that's why Richard's saying the fees have made it unusable. on Ethereum. Everything you said, though, is correct, and I'm not taking any of that back. So it just makes it very difficult to continue to tell people that when the chart looks like it did after what happened a couple days ago.
Wall to Wall is somebody who likes to come in and purposely just stir things up.
I know,
But
I still like to address it. I don't want anybody to feel left out.
Plus, I literally have said on this stream tonight that I would buy eHEX right now. So
Right.
I don't even understand what that means. But yeah, it's I think it's an opportunity right now for sure. So, did you want to go ahead and look at whatever Richard just tweeted here? I know we're kind of all over the place right now, but
sure. I just pulled it up though. Here, you want to see her again?
Oh yeah. I got it on my own screen. Yeah, he's just mocking people. Richard, you must let Ethereum make another 100 million on Hexagon's backs. You must not tell them about real hex on PulseChain. They must pay $400 for swaps on ETH because I think it would make me more money. Silence, Richard. Do what is wrong for the community, but right for me, Rich. It's funny. It's just kind of shtick, I think, at this point. But anyway, yeah, people are just acting like he called it dead, and that's not what he's done. I don't know. So,
no,
again, they're selling it more right now. They're selling both hexes right now, not just eHEX. I'm looking at it right now. Both are being sold off right now. What it is. So, anyway,
yeah, people are getting out. I think that they see a little dissent, and maybe are worried that a tweet from a founder can have that type of effect. And I think it scared a few people. I think that has a lot to do with it too. Not saying they won't come back, not saying they won't get back into Hex, but they might have just kind of rotated into Pulse. And that is what we're seeing. So, I get that part of it too. I get all sides of it. We're usually pretty well-rounded here. I think our conversations are usually not one-sided at all.
I think I am. I think you kind of usually go one way or the other, but I'm pretty diplomatic, I think.
I don't think so.
Go ahead.
I was like, you're fucking with me, aren't you?
Yeah.
All right. But no, that's all I was really getting at is, we like to take both sides of things. I don't again, it's kind of like it'll all blow over. It'll all blow over in 3-6 months. We'll be talking about something else, and we'll look back on it and laugh. Remember that candle? Oh yeah, that's kind of what it'll be.
Well, just think about how you referenced it earlier in tonight's show, but we talked about last June with the month of Furu Finance when he was going on and on about like PHEX, not eHEX. That was all going on last summer, like a month after PulseChain launched, and that just became a meme eventually and funny and stuff. And Furu kind of like even went away, I think, for a while there or something. So
yeah.
But yeah,
until just recently when he came back to say I was
right. yeah. He's got to be a signal of some type. I don't know what it is, but yeah. Let's wrap up with this. I mean, we honestly have many other things we could go to, but I know you're a little under the weather and we've really attacked a lot tonight. But one other thing that Richard did announce on Sunday, which is interesting, is that the Pulse bridge fee is coming back officially for all chains other than Ethereum. And just the way that he said it, and I think he tweeted about it a couple of times and even had kind of a sneaky like, oh, I wonder why that is. Why could that be? Wow, it looks like it's not there for people coming from Ethereum. So what do you make of that? Because, a lot of people that may be watching this right now, the times that they've bridged to PulseChain in the last, 6 months, or it's been a good while now that we haven't had a PulseChain fee, which was what, 0.03% or whatever.
Yeah.
And again, we're not talking about gas fees from Ethereum bridging to PulseChain. We're talking about a fee. Most bridges have a nominal fee of some type, and the official PulseChain bridge on PulseChain.com has not had one coming from ETH for a while now. That's going to remain that way. But what do you make of this? Why is he not implementing a fee for bridging from ETH, but he is if you're coming from Arbitrum, BNB, whatever else it may be?
Well, I just think he's trying to save people. He's just as mad about the Ethereum fees as the rest of us. He was one of the big proponents of Ethereum when he could have originally launched Hex on Solana or BNB or whatever chain it was. He was definitely a proponent of Ethereum. Then whenever they switched, there was a upgrade that was done where the S load fees pretty much quadrupled. At least it was like 3.5 to 4 times as much. You could almost tell at that point is when Richard said, well, enough's enough. And I think that's whenever the PulseChain kind of idea started to come about. He originally had said, if fees get too bad, we can fork it and do our own thing. It's the same reason why there were copies made. It's the same reason why the code is the same. He's trying to bring traffic to PulseChain from Ethereum to help lessen the fees so that everybody can kind of do their own thing without getting, pillaged for when you look at the amount, the $150 million that is speculated in fees. I looked at one point, there was a website you could put your address in and it would tell you how much you spent in fees.
Oh yeah.
And I know at one point I was over 50 grand myself.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, yes, the price of Hex was up enough to justify it at that point. But it's crazy to think that you spend that much money on just fees. You got nothing in return other than a transaction. It's crazy, especially when you look back and you see Vitalik's thing saying, and what did he say? Over 5 cents was ridiculous. I believe was one of his original statements. But yet they haven't done anything to fix it. Obviously the validators are making money. We know that. They got to do something. And someone said, I saw the other day, so here's an interesting thing. If PulseChain gets as busy as we want it, won't the fees be just as high? And I don't think so. I think there are ways to control it. And I think Richard would probably keep it cheap. There's ways to not increase the S load. There's ways to mitigate some of the fees. Now, if it does 10,000x, I don't know. I don't know the logistics of setting up the fees or how they're calculated. I'm sure there are calculations that are done though, to what you charge and what can be charged, and in turn, what the validators do make. So I'm just very curious as to how that could be mitigated if we do get as busy as Ethereum one day.
Well, one thing is for sure is Richard. I don't know if you want to say he's like a more visible guy than Vitalik. I mean, he certainly is more of a kind of like bootstrap, talk about his own ecosystem guy than Vitalik. Ethereum's kind of become like many people don't even know who Vitalik is, but they know what Ethereum is. But Rich is kind of more associated with the stuff that he's created, and I think has more of an incentive to make the stuff he created work well because of that. I don't know how much Vitalik really cares about that. Like Vitalik has capitulated to the point of putting out literal roadmaps for Ethereum, which sounds like expectation creating. This is something really interesting I did hear Sami say the other day with Richard being, bullish on the ETH ETF. The fact that Vitalik has literally put out a roadmap of what's to come, what you can expect from Ethereum in coming months and years. And there's about to be an Ethereum ETF. So the SEC can't do anything. It's not going to do anything to Ethereum, which could check boxes of being a security. So make of that what you will,
Yep.
Nikola Hexla, what do you think of this Ewok? Could this, Richard's tweets and stuff, could this be part of the 50-week shakeout, a big surprise to really eliminate the week? I don't look at it that way. I don't know. What do you make of that?
Are you talking about the eHEX comments?
I think that's what Nikola Hexla means by that. I think that's what they're referring to.
I don't think so. We talked about that too. We did say, well, I wonder if this is a ploy to make Bank X guys capitulate. But I don't think so. I mean, we all know why PulseChain was created. It was to eliminate fees, right? To get people over there to say, here, come over here on this playground, eliminate those fees over there, and come over here where it's pennies. So I don't think so. I think you'll see more of the like the PulseX run up that you saw as more of a surprise type thing to eliminate people. I don't think this is. I don't, in my opinion, I don't think this was part of that. Would be a hell of a play. It'd be a one crazy chess move if they do sell, and he says something like, "I did that so that they would get out," and then if he pumps it back up and makes parity, I think that would be hilarious. I don't see that happening, but I think it would be pretty funny if it did.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be very interesting for sure. Well, man, I think we had a great show tonight. I mean, I figured that we would primarily just be talking about this topic because there are
Yeah.
so many angles to it. And that'll leave us a lot of great stuff for next week. And God knows what the hell's going to happen between now and next week. But before I do prematurely wrap it up, is there anything else you did want to touch on, Ewok, before we go?
I don't think so, man. My brain's kind of still foggy. I'm not sure. I think we hit on everything except we could probably cover my little pDAI thing if you want me to.
I don't know, man. I think we want to really. I mean, that's going to be a segment, so I don't know.
I don't have a whole lot to say about it.
Okay,
I mean,
let's go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's.
You can lead it in if you want.
Well, I was going to try to find. I think I bookmarked your tweet whenever you did it. So, obviously, you guys know what pDAI is. Here it is. I'll just send you your tweet to share it. But, pDAI is obviously the copy of DAI, the stable coin from Ethereum on PulseChain. It's done well, pumped since last summer, mainly by B Roots, has talked about it a lot, obviously, on his show. It's part of the Atropa ecosystem, which has Teddy Bear in it, as well as a lot of other tokens that I can't even remember all of. But essentially, and it's actually really cool. I mean, I will say this, like on CoinGecko, they literally label pDAI in I think it's CoinGecko. They label it in the asset class of speculative stable coin, which is a new idea. That's not something that's been out there before. But a lot of people have speculated heavily and are firmly believing that Richard Hart is behind this and that, pDAI is going to be his stable coin and he's tied to it and all these things. But yeah, go ahead and give what your thoughts were on it, Ewok.
Well, I'll read my post first, and then, we'll go from there. I said, sorry to tell you that if RH decides to make a stable coin, it's not going to be pDAI. Many of you have proven that you can't be trusted with a big bag of anything and not dump it. The fact that some of you have billions is already the reason it won't happen. So, yeah, that was my take on it. And, the reason I said that was because I think... So one of the things first, let me clear that one thing up. pDAI to $1. I never said that couldn't happen. Because I know how crazy run-ups are and can happen in a bull market. I've seen it before. I'm more against the whole thing becoming a stable coin, and I really don't think it would ever peg. You couldn't peg it to $1. The reason you couldn't peg it to $1 is because so many people own so much of it, and they didn't buy it for $1. When you don't buy something for $1, you don't value it as $1. You value it as what you bought it at, and you're getting a great deal if you can sell it higher, right? So I think that has a lot of importance to this whole pegging to $1. I don't think it can. Plus, like I said, many people have huge bags of it. I don't see any one entity putting in enough, first of all, to get it to $1, but then to keep it there as well. It would take so much backing that be pretty much off-sided. You know what I mean? You would need thousands of dollars to just tie it to one to balance it out because it's so offsides. So that was more my statement. I know Richard has talked before about creating his own stable coin. I've seen some arguments out there that why would he do that while there's still an ongoing SEC case? Well, that's possible. We may have to wait till that's over before any of that comes to play. But my original point was that while the whole thing is an interesting narrative and this and that, and I know people have big bags of it, and that's why they talk about it. That's why we talk about anything, right? We all talk about things that we own. So I just don't feel that this can ever peg to a dollar. And I think that people that say that, it's just a narrative, and they're crazy for thinking that another one that I heard was that the OA addresses are tied to it. I have honestly never seen proof of that. I know originally when the Fixer bot was deployed, it did touch that contract because it was brought over, and that's what set the ratios and things like that. The only time that I've seen any proof of the contract or the OA addresses touching that part of it was that. So if somebody has proof, I'm not going to go digging. So I mean, but if somebody has proof and wants
So
to
you're going to
send,
make these wild claims saying that these pDAI
yeah,
people are incorrect, and you're not going to do any digging. That's what you're
well,
going to say to me here
they
tonight.
probably have it bookmarked somewhere if they can send it to me to prove otherwise that it wasn't the Fixer bot.
Which nobody did do. I mean, I don't think anybody did that on your tweet. I did see
No,
people that said,
they claim it,
uh,
but they
yeah,
didn't show any proof of it. And
yeah, they said the SAC wallets are linked to the Atropa contract. Um, yeah, but I didn't see like any proof of anything. So I don't know. It may very well be there. I mean, you could show me something that's compelling evidence. I still likely won't believe it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like I still likely won't believe that RH has any involvement with it. I don't believe it. That said, just like you, I totally agree with you. Could it go to a dollar? Definitely. I,
yeah,
never would discount, and that's why I hold some. Like, full disclosure, like I want to see that happen. I think that would be awesome. But that's kind of where my analysis ends. I don't necessarily think that Richard has anything to do with it, but I think it's cool. I have
yep,
Teddy Bear, I have pDAI, I have Atropa even. So, yeah, we'll see. There's passionate people behind it. They're intrigued by it. They want to see
yeah,
it happen. That's enough for me.
yeah. Hey, like I said, I've seen crazy things. I've seen Pepe run up. I've seen Shiba run up. I know what these things can do. Um, I don't I just don't think it will ever peg to a dollar. You got too many people that own too much of it. And if he's going to do a stable coin, it's going to start from a stable where you pay a dollar for it. Then people value it at a dollar. It's a lot easier to peg something when you start it at a dollar, easier to run the bots that arbitrage it between 0.99 cents and,
Mhm.
$1 and 0.001 or whatever. There are bots that do it. When it's this far offsides, it's just so hard. And I don't think there's really, I don't know. I don't think there's enough capital to do it. That's all. There's a lot of
Yeah.
money out there, but I think it will be used for plenty other interesting things.
Yeah. I understand that. Cool. Well, glad we got that out there. If you don't know pDAI, maybe you're lost, but if
Yeah,
you do, let's root for a dollar together anyway. Would be very
yeah.
cool. I don't even need a dollar for it to be beneficial, really. So,
Hey, I'll root for you. I'll root for you.
yeah.
I just won't buy any.
Yeah. All right. Well, you're lost.
Yeah,
Anyway, we want to thank all you guys for being here tonight. This is a great stream, really active chat. I loved getting all you guys' thoughts on some of these Richard tweets and the ecosystem the last couple of days. I thought, most of the comments we got, it's funny, like Twitter, whatever you want to call it, has people with mass psychosis on it, like tweeting about this shit all day. These
yeah,
YouTube comments have been very measured, and I don't know if that's the audience that we've cultivated or just that YouTube is, a better platform for that. But the people that are here and have been here every week, and new people we've seen here have been awesome tonight. So,
yeah. Our
yeah,
our chat has just really exploded lately. People becoming really active, and I want to say thank you as well. I appreciate the involvement that everybody's been, giving in. Again, thanks again to Randy for throwing the super chat. We appreciate him as well.
yeah.
Just a awesome community that we've got, and a lot of loyal people. So thank you again.
And it sounds like Randy's live on his channel or was about to be here soon, so you guys can hop on over to there. I know Matty Allen's streaming, I think, as well tonight, so check out all that stuff as well. But we will be back. We will be back. We're here every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So thank you all again for my co-host, Crypto Ewok. This has been Broke Boy Crypto, and we'll catch you guys right here next week on the Creed of Crypto live stream. See you guys. But